I saw Henri start from day one, when he was coming to some of the companies I was working with, trying to get engagements, trying to get funding, trying to get money into his business. And along that journey, he's faced a lot of issues, okay, to where he is today. He's somebody I follow very closely, and the reason I do follow him is just to understand how he's been able to make it this far. So I thought it's good for him to speak to you about his company, but specifically talk about the challenges he faces and how he's overcome some of those, so that many of you will skip 3 years of problems to try and come where he is. So you learn from those who have walked the journey, rather than telling you go and swim. I'd rather teach you how to swim. So he's here to speak to you about that. I'll sort of come in at the end to just bring context to what he said, so that you appreciate the legal challenges of a journey like his. So Henri, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
So I'm briefly going to talk about what I do, but I want to do more of a question as give you guys more value. So sitting here talking about what I do is not really what I'm here for. But briefly, so my name is Henri Nyakarundi. I started a company 5 years ago called A-Red. So what we are, we are a platform as a service. We developed a small solar kiosk platform to bring low-cost connectivity and distribution of digital services for low-income people in rural area, refugee camps, and semi-urban areas. So our kiosk basically, you can charge phones, you can connect to Wi-Fi system offline, online, and you can purchase any digital services. So the idea was to create a one-stop shop to solve the distribution issue that exists for low-income people, because distribution is very fragmented for low-income people. If you want MTN, you have to go to an MTN agent. If you want Irembo now, you have to go to Irembo agent. So we combine all the services. So the idea came about 9 years ago. So I've been in business for a long time. I had a prior business before that, but this particular business is an idea that came 9 years ago. Hardware is different than software. How many of you guys have a hardware component to your business? Okay. Well, then you really relate to what I'm trying to tell you, because hardware is extremely expensive. It's most of the time you have to develop outside the continent because there's no real hardware development, even though now things are changing with Fab Lab, K-Lab, but still prototyping, industrial design and production is two different things, and we're still not on the industrial side of things, so we still have a long way to go. Hardware is extremely difficult also to scale. But the good thing about hardware, and I should say hardware and software business, the good thing about a hard tech system, which is hardware and software, it's harder for competition. Less people get into hardware business, so you have less competition, which is the good thing. Software, as you may know, is very popular. So briefly, I've been in business for 5 years. Now we're scaling. We're here. We're in Uganda. We're about to be in Nigeria next year. We spent 5 years developing this platform. It evolved a lot, as Brian said. I went through a really interesting journey, but that's part of being an entrepreneur. You have to embrace challenges. If you look at challenges as something bad or something difficult or something that you shouldn't be experiencing, then you're in the wrong business. Part of being an entrepreneur is solving problems every day. That's your job. So you have to embrace problems. You have to wake up and be excited about having a problem that day. And I'm serious, because it will train your mind to solve problems. It'll become so, second nature that after a while, as soon as you have a problem, you already designed a solution in your brain. If you dwell too much on the problem, you are losing the game, because you're going to increase your stress level, most likely you will quit. So I'm here to share more of the practical side of doing business. But I think what I want to do also is spend more time on expansion. How many of you guys are planning to expand outside Rwanda? Your platform, your system, your services? Okay. So one of the things I'm learning, and I've been learning now, expanding in Uganda, and now we're looking at Nigeria, is your strategy of expansion. Africa is a very fragmented market. The laws here are not the same laws in Uganda, not the same laws in Kenya. Now you can talk about Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and all those things. So you have to have also an innovative business model. You have to have a business model that allow you to scale without having to raise so much money, you know. So that's also one of the challenges you will have to solve. It's of course much easier for software than it is for a hard tech company, but it's doable. And I'll share some of our strategy that we're using to scale up a business. Last thing I'm going to talk about is fundraising. I'm sure you guys, how many of you guys are planning or are looking for raising capital? Oh, everybody else got money, huh? Okay. So let me start with scaling up, you know, and then we'll go straight to questions. One of the things I've seen companies doing wrong is that they're trying to open offices in every country they're trying to go in. That's the wrong approach, because now you have to have a team or a large team in all those countries. What's going to happen if you do that? You're going to have to raise capital every year. And you see companies doing that. They have to raise money all the time. The strategy you have to do is look for partnership. Yes, you earn less money because you share that with your partner, but you minimize your OPEX, your operational costs. Business is not always about making money. It's also lowering your cost of operation to increase your revenue margins. A lot of people think it's money, making. No, lower your OPEX. Now with technology, you're able to do that. Now you can, your accounting can be automated. You know, we have a lot of software. I mean, we built a back-end software system that is really doing pretty much everything we need without having to hire people. So you have to find a partner. That partner will allow you to expand much faster. Number one, why? That partner knows the market better than you, right? So if you go to a new market, you're dealing with a different mindset. You're dealing with the different laws. And you don't want to go, it'll take you a year just to learn that market. Why not find a partner, bypass that year, and start scaling up? Right now you have, since we have lawyers in it, now you have to think about, for us it's a licensing franchising model we've developed. So now you have to look at, for those who want to expand, how can you develop a licensing franchising model of your business, right? And come up with the requirement, and it will take time. But that's something you should start thinking about it now. Because expansion is gruesome. It'll require a lot of your time. And most of the time, so most of my time now is traveling, either looking for partner. We already have a partner in Uganda, spending time training that partner, sharing the knowledge and all those things. Make sure that the agreement between me and the partner are solid enough. You know, franchising, for example, there's no franchising laws in Africa, so you have to make sure that your agreement minimizes the risk. And there's ways, I'm not going to dwell about that. We have a great lawyer here that can talk about this. But, so that will be your job. Then you're going to find out that you can go to 10, 20, 30 countries in less than 10 years. If you do it on your own, trying to open offices, trying to keep all the money possible, it's going to take you 50, 100 years, easy, you know, and it'll bypass you and a few generations. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, expansion. The second thing is fundraising. Fundraising is a challenge for everybody, even for us. Even though we've raised capital now, it's always a challenge. Because number one, the reality on the ground is tech is still not as popular as other businesses like real estate and all those things. So our ecosystem is still almost non-existent for investment, even though it's changing. So most of you guys, at least in our case, 100% of our funding come from outside Rwanda, actually in Europe and the States. Now the challenge in those is you're talking to people that don't really understand the African ecosystem. And you have to engage them and convince them that not only you're the right person for the job, number one. Number two, that the solution is needed in the market because their problem is not the same as our problem. And most of the time you're going to pitch to investors when they come outside, they don't even know the ecosystem here. So you have to have a really tight documentation, business plan, financial, projections, audit your system. If you generate money, have auditing done on your paperwork. Investors will not even touch you if you don't have an audit in your financial. They won't even talk to you. But investment is about networking. That's one thing I've learned. Networking, networking, networking. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's one thing I've learned. And one of the mistakes we make as startup is we stay in this bubble of building this business. We're not spending time building our social media presence. I found my first investor on LinkedIn. I used to post, or I still do, but I used to post about my journey on social media, and I still do to this day. You know, posting what I've accomplished, posting impact I've had on customers, posting the technology and how the technology has evolved. You know, just to show, because investment is about trust. First and foremost is about trust. If an investor trusts you, even if you're on an early stage, they're willing to take that risk and put money in your company. If they don't trust you, it doesn't matter how great your business is, they're not going to give you any money. You know, a lot of people mistake, people think investor put money in your company. No, they put money in you. They look at you and say, this is the right guy to build a company. This is the right guy to lead this business. I trust and believe this guy is going to take this business to the next level, and I'm going to get a return to this investment. So they don't invest in a company, they invest in you. So if you don't present your company properly, if you don't build that trust with that investor, you're not going to find money. You know, and how do you build that trust? Is you can do it now with documenting your journey. Document your journey. Social media is free. You know, you can have a reach of millions of people. You don't know who's watching, who's listening to what you said, right? Share your story. Don't be scared. A lot of time we have a fear people are going to copy your business. People will copy your business regardless if it's a good business. Don't be scared of competition. Embrace competition. You know, you need to understand competition will come. You know, that's part of business. You know, the question you need to ask yourself is not how to stop competition, it has to be better than your competition. You know, innovation is a constant, it's not, the product you develop today is not going to be the product of next 6 months to a year. We've changed our technology 4 times in 5 years. You know, so you always have to constantly be innovative, constantly bring more value to whatever platform you build. You know, not just for you, but for your customer, but always differentiate yourself for your competitors. You know, that's the key. So it's a constant battle. I always tell my colleague and my team, the battle is not at the office, it's on the ground, right? If you win your customer, you win the game. So saying all this, I just want to open the floor to questions. Like I said, I think I want to bring more value to targeted questions based on your challenges, whatever question you want to share, so that I can bring more value to what you guys need on the ground. So, no problem. Don't mind if I sit.
I'm really not the only person to ask you a question. Because I'm sitting next to you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Yeah,
Number
sure.
1 is, how do you apply IoT in your business? And then second question is, hardware, that's what you are building up yours. But if I go in Tanzania somewhere and I build the same thing, will you be out of business?
Okay, good question. So IoT, that's a good point. We're actually developing the IoT as we speak. So IoT for us, what we've noticed is that when we have kiosks in 4, 5, 6 hours away from Kigali, we don't know what's going on the ground. We don't have eyes on the kiosk. So we incorporating IoT to better monitor our agent and monitor the equipment. So I'll tell you what some of the IoT we put in place: GPS, motion sensor. So we'll be able to know how many people are around the kiosk, fingerprint sensor. So now we'll know that the agent we recruit is the one operating the kiosk. We also put in sensor for charging, so we want to know exactly how many phones are getting charged in real time. So IoT for us, as ARED, is to minimize our operational costs. The way we used to run businesses, we had people on the ground monitoring our kiosks for us. That was a huge expenses. Now with IoT, we've minimized our OPEX by 50%. So IoT is the future. If you're building hardware without IoT, you're losing the game. And the last thing about IoT is the data we collect. A lot of investors want to know real data, exact data. not projections, not estimate, and now with technology, you're able to do. Your second question is very interesting. I had that conversation with another young entrepreneur about copying. It's funny. People don't understand that you can copy a product, but you can't copy the CEO, right? The thing is, somebody can bring the same product, build a team, have more money than you, but they can't copy you as a leader, as a driver of your company. You're the one who's on the driving seat of your own bus, right? So it's not always about money, it's about passion, right? If you're driven and passionate, nobody can copy that. Some people can copy and want money in 6 months and then they quit. But if you're passionate, you're willing to give your whole life into the business you chose. Nobody can copy that. So I'm not really concerned about copying. I didn't start this business to make money, even though, of course, you have to be sustainable. I'm really passionate about this. This is a long-term, I'm mapped out 10, 15 years goal for this business. So I'm not worried about copying. The second thing is, Africa is a huge market. You don't need to be the only player. We're going to be 2 billion people in 30 to 40 years. 2 billion people. Even if you grasp 1 million customers, you're still doing good. So why you worry? Now, don't worry about competition. What you need to worry about is what your competition is doing that you're not doing. Because if they're beating you in innovation, then yes, of course, that's an issue you need to worry about. But if you're driven, then you're going to solve problems, you're going to be connected to your customer, you're going to bring so much value. And just to explain what business is. Business is about your customer. If you bring so much value to your customer that your competitor is not doing, you win in any business. I don't care what it is. Always be customer centric. Always, 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 always. I always tell my team, it's about the customer. What do they need? Get close to them. Get feedback. Ask them questions. That's the number one thing you should do every day. The back end, the laws and all is very important, don't get me wrong. But if you don't know what your customer needs, if you don't satisfy your customer, guess what? They'll go somewhere else. It's just that simple. And now with technology, it's even easy. So don't spend too much time at the office. You need to be on the ground and serving your customer. Ask questions. Ask them what else they need. So I'm not really too worried about competition. Actually, I embrace competition. Africa needs more innovation, needs more tech. So I'm not really against competition. I really love competition. And lastly, competition validates your business, by the way. If you have competition, an investor comes and you say, well, we have competition. There's a market for it. It's a better business case for it.
So what is your passion?
My drive is to impact others. Right? So I've been in business for close to 20 years now. I've done all kinds of business. I've been in logistics, I've been in e-commerce. I had an e-commerce business earlier when e-commerce was just started. That was like 8 years ago. My passion now is, so when I decided to come to Rwanda, so a little background, I was born in Kenya, I grew up in Burundi. Then when Burundi war started, early 90s, I graduated from high school. My mom sent us to the States, and that's really my journey to entrepreneurship started. So I started my first business, I was 20, and I failed business my first 10 years. All the business I was doing was a failure, 10 years. It got so bad that my mom was like, listen, don't call me no more for money, don't ask me for anything. But I truly believe that entrepreneurship was my vocation. I really was passionate about it. But my first successful business was in logistics. But it was only about money. And that's actually what funded ARED. So when I came back home, I looked at the ecosystem, not just Rwanda, but Africa. There's 3 customer brackets, right? There's the upper class, there's the middle class, and then there's what we call the BOP, the basic pyramid, which is 70 to 80% of the population. Most businesses focus on middle class, upper class. But very few companies focus at the BOP. And BOP is a different business model. Your margins are low, yes, but you have volumes. You have volumes, and you have low competition. So I look at the BOP, I was like, this is what I need to do. But I didn't just want to focus on money. I was like, how can I do an impact? So one of the programs we have is the agents that we recruit are mostly women and people with disability that operate the kiosks. We train them, we support them, we give them credit as business owners. They get the kiosk for a very low fee. When I say get, they lease the kiosk for a very low fee. So it's a win-win situation. We wanted to disrupt the agent network market. The way agent network is, you see they have umbrella, they have a box. That's what the area we wanted to disrupt. We wanted to bring technology into that market because those guys are they're very limited to the amount of money they can make because they don't get the support. You know, the MTN agent only sell MTN, Airtel agent sell Airtel, Irembo agent only supposed to sell Irembo. Even though now they're realizing they need to change the model. So we look at that ecosystem, we're like, okay, how can we combine all the services, not only to bring a one-stop shop for our customers, but maximizing revenue for the agent. And for us, we get a piece of the pie on top of the Wi-Fi and all, and our Wi-Fi system. We have a B2B and a B2C business. I'll give you more detail. One of the key strategies to make money at the BOP, you have to have a multiple revenue stream. I repeat, if you have a business to do at the base of the pyramid, you have to have a multiple revenue stream. We have a B2B business, we have a B2C business. Our B2C is our digital services, airtime, Irembo, mobile money, and all those things. That revenue we share with the agent and area. But our B2B is our Wi-Fi network. So we're technically building our own Wi-Fi network across Africa. So what that means is now customer can interact with our Wi-Fi network, we can do advertisement on our Wi-Fi network, we can do survey on our Wi-Fi network. So companies pay us to collect data or push their brand. And that's really what our B2B business is. Without that, we wouldn't be sustainable as a business. Yeah, you're the only one. We'll get back. Let me. So I don't sound like I have preferential treatment. Sorry.
Yeah. Before coming here, I read about you, and I've seen that you in Africa, in studying your business, you need to find grants and money, but you have said that there are no grants here in Africa. You need to find grants in competition, and you find more grants in European countries, European companies. So what do you think made African companies don't have grants for the startup companies? Because if the market is in Africa, why don't they invest in a startup company which has to impact the lives of people in Africa?
That's a good question. What I said was that there is no African grants. There's grants, but they're mostly for government programs and all those things that government fund. But to answer your question, I mean, that's a good question. You know, we have a long way to go. In Europe, in the States, a startup, I was at the competition last year, Green Challenge, and I was the only African actually as a part of the finalists, and all the other members had already raised on grants 2 million, 3 million from their government for research and development. The biggest problem we have in Africa is government are not funding grants for research and development. So if you have a great idea, you know, you can go to a government and say, oh, not direct to the government, but they have systems where you can apply to those grants for research and development. There is none. Why? I'm not sure why. I mean, I'm not in that ecosystem, so I can't really answer why. But what I do want to tell you guys, there is a lot of money out there. There is a lot of money out there. We raised, and just to be transparent, we raised close to $1 million just on grants and competition. Our technology cost us $1 million so far, we're not even finished it. But we were able to finance 90% of that through grants and competition. But how do that, so the small grants you can do it yourself. You can go on Google and search them, there's certain keywords you do. I used to spend 2-3 hours every day looking for competition. For 4 years, that's all I did. I used to apply for 20 to 30 competition every year and win maybe 2 or 3. So the odds are against you, but it's doable. Of course, your innovation, your products has to be innovative enough, right? Grants are a little bit complex. Grants is about connection, and I'll be totally honest with you. You have to be connected with somebody, not necessarily in a legal way, but connected to because grants get thousands and thousands of applicants, right? And the people that make decisions are people that don't even know what the problems are. So if you don't have somebody to advocate your business, it's tough to get your grant. And most companies do that. You know, they get, and there's what we call capacity builder or consulting that exists. I highly recommend, and he'll be coming, one of our biggest investors, Green Tech Capital. They're coming actually in a few weeks. Here, they do most of the big grants for us, right? So I'm not sitting here telling you I'm the one to win all those grants. That's nonsense. You can't win the big money by yourself. You need to be strategic about your application. And when you get a consultant or capacity building, now that's becoming very popular, those that can push an advocate because they have a huge network of people already, so they can push your case much better for you. You can't do everything yourself. So you need to have strategic partners. Most big companies that raise capital use fund manager. They don't go and knock on the door of banks and all. They don't do that stuff. They have a fund manager that push for their case and they get a piece of that's the way the game is played. Green Tech Capital, we're doing a seed round right now. They're the one who's doing our fund manager. But the difference is they have equity in ARED, so they don't get a fee. But that's the way you raise millions and millions of dollars, by connecting with the right fund managers. And they're out there, but they're not that many, so you have to know how to, be connected to those guys. Again, networking, how you network, social media. The best social media for networking is LinkedIn. If you're not pushing your profile, your personal profile, your business profile on LinkedIn, you're not gonna win this game. This game of entrepreneurship is a global game. Even though you're local, stop playing a local game. Already start training yourself to be in a global game. That's the way you're gonna win, right? And it's a lot of work, but it's doable. Trust me, if I'm able to do it, anybody can. There's nothing special about it, nothing. I'm so consistent every day. That's all. That's the difference. I hope I answered the question. Yes.
No question. So you didn't tell us about the production journey, how have you been able to produce?
Oh, good question. It's been a journey. I don't think we have, I'll do a short version. So we're building our fourth version of the kiosk. The journey was filled with a lot of mistakes, right? The first two versions of the kiosk, I didn't know anything about hardware. When I started this business, I thought hardware was about to put some stuff together, panels, a box, some wheels, and you put to go your business. It's not the case. So I made a lot of mistakes. So hardware is a game of two steps, right? In business, at least for me, I believe in outsourcing as much as you can. One of the challenge of entrepreneurship, you can burn through a lot of money if you're trying to hire a lot of people full-time, have to pay employee tax, labor laws are very tough, etc., etc. But if you outsource, it's much more efficient. So I outsource 100% of our development. 100% of our development is outsourced in 4 different countries. The software part is in India, 2 countries in Kenya, the hardware part in Germany, and the IoT in South Africa. So the hardware part is 2 steps, right? Step number 1, you have to develop the technology. You have to build a prototype, So you have to have the design and all those things. So you have to find the right company for that. There's a company right now that is doing a really good job in Kenya. It's called Gearbox. I know Fab Lab also, they're doing that, but I'm not too familiar with how detailed they are, but Gearbox is a very good company right now in Kenya that do product development. The second challenge for you is production. That's a much tougher challenge. Right now, we have to produce this technology, produce in Hong Kong. They have a branch in China. You know, our kiosk has 135 different components, right? 135, router, solar, wheels. If you try to do that yourself, you'll have to raise a minimum of $5 to $10 million just to build a factory. That's suicide. It doesn't make no sense, right? So you outsource. Most big companies, even iPhone, they don't produce that themselves. They outsource the production. Manufacturing is about connection. You can lose a lot of money if you don't work with the right manufacturing company. So China is still to this day the best place to manufacture, because you can go to a factory and they can manufacture all the components for you from one location. Of course, they have partners already, but you deal with one company. Now, to make sure your quality, that the product is quality, you have to go there, you have to travel there. But networking is also one of the key. Don't just trust a manufacturer for the sake of because it's a manufacturer. There's different level of manufacturing, different level of quality. Cost is also a factor, but again, so those are the two things. You have to find a partner for the prototyping. You have to make sure they build an industrial design of your product, and now you have to find a factory. And that will require you to travel there, or if you have an investor that have connected, work through referrals. It's much better, and if you want, if you have a product, I can refer to our guys. It's very good. It's from Hong Kong. But make sure you spend a lot of time. I know most of you know hardware, but hardware is tough. It's really tough. Plus, from a design standpoint, software, you can just have an MVP on the software, test it, it can crash, no problem. You fix the bugs, it's good to go. You can't do that with hardware. Because if that hardware falls, burns, and affects the customer, let's just say you might end up in jail, right? So hardware is a whole other game. And it's a game it took me a long time to learn. But you know, don't make eggs without breaking the shell, so it is what it is. Yes?
So I have a question about customer awareness. How did you brand your product? And what approaches did you use to market it? Or did you just place them in strategic places? Or did you advertise them?
It's a good question. So I first started in Yabucoa. First years. Actually, I was the one working there. You know, you as the owner of your company, you have to understand your business. You have to understand your customer. Don't try to outsource that to somebody else. You need, since you're leading the pack, you need to know what you're dealing with, right? So branding comes after. Branding, logos, and all that comes later. Again, you need to understand your customer. You need to understand, first of all, if your product fulfills the need. Second of all, you need to see if that product is enough to build a sustainable business, right? And lastly, you have to get feedback from the customer, because most of the idea of Wi-Fi and all that didn't come from me, it came from the customers. Customers used to come and say, man, why don't you do mobile money on the kiosk? That's interesting. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So you'd be amazed by how much information you can get from the customer. So yeah, definitely. Then you can build a logo after you know what direction you build. The brand comes later. At least in my view. Yes?
Yeah, I have maybe 3 things to ask.
Yeah.
Number one goes with scalability in the business. And maybe you would tell us about your scalability plan and how you decided to go outside Rwanda before you even cover the local market of Rwanda. And then the other question is about affordability. How is your kiosk more affordable to people than others? And the third is about the impact traction. How do you track your impact?
So, first question, why did we expand outside before we develop?
Scalability.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I mean, when I started this business, I knew it was not just for the Rwandan market, it was going to be for the African market. That I already knew was part of the plan. That was already the plan. So we have a goal of 20 countries in the next 10 years. That's our goal that we have, all the 20 major countries in Africa. But again, when you have a strategy of looking for partners in those countries, then your work is not as tough as it is. So the model that we have is very simple. We license or franchise the model. So we look for a local partner that put the money up front for the kiosk. So buy the kiosk from us and license the business model and the software. That's really a simple model, right? So instead of for them developing this technology, they can use that technology, and we have a revenue sharing structure. So it's much less capital on my side, right? Of course, I earn less, but now I can expand much quicker. I can do 3, 4, 5 countries at one time. But if I have to go in Uganda, spend money, build a team, I can't do unless I have a lot of money. And even when you have a lot of money, the bigger your company is, the more headache you got. You know, you got the more staff you have, the more headache it is. You know, it's not as easy as you think it is. More staff than you do. I hate corporate politics. I'm a big believer in small teams. You'll never hear me have more than 50 people, even when we get to 20 countries. You know, because then I like a linear communication system where everybody can reach out to me. When you start building a corporate system, then you deal with the runners. So that's I hope that answers the first question.
Not at all, because I still look upon the local market part of it.
But you can do both.
Let's go back to Rwanda.
Yeah.
How are you planning to scale up?
Or in Rwanda, we are already scaling up. We have 50 kiosks right now. We have 300 coming next year. Our cap of kiosks will be 400. So minimum of 10 per district. Yeah, we'll be done with Rwanda. Right now, we spend a lot of time. So we're about to do taxes, collection of taxes. For that, you need a license. So we have to wait for the license for that. Wi-Fi requires also a license. So a lot of component of our technology requires a license. So that takes time. We couldn't scale up before getting the license. So now we got most of the licensing, and we should be done with running marketing within 2 years.
Second.
Yes. What's the second game?
Affordability.
Oh. So we lease the kiosk. We don't sell it. You can't afford to buy it. And there's no value. The value is not the kiosk, the value is the services the kiosk provides for them. Right? So we lease the kiosk. So women is around, right, in Rwandan francs, 25,000. It's a one-time fee. That cover training, uniform, transport of the kiosk to the location we go, and monitoring. And for people with disabilities, 10,000 Rwandan francs. And it's a one-time fee. And then they pay a leasing fee of 1,000 Rwandan francs per month. Our agent earns around 3 times what a regular agent earns, because they make money on charging phones, they sell all services, plus Wi-Fi and all this. And I highly recommend you can check one of we have one at the marketplace. What's that market? The new marketplace. Bus park. Where's that bus park? So we have a kiosk there with Wi-Fi. Please consume. It's very cheap.
And then the impact part, because maybe you can answer that question by telling us how your model is sustainable enough to keep you in business.
So
you will answer the impact traction as well as the sustainability.
So for us, sustainability is on unit economics level. So for the kiosk cost us right now $1,300, right? So our target is to make no less than $100 net per kiosk per month. So that's how you build sustainability by knowing your unit economics. Now, of course, it's for our business. Every business is different, but you have to come up, as you say, what's sustainability. So that's how we measure sustainability. So of course, some kiosks make more than 100. Other kiosks make less. Like we have kiosks in refugee camps. They don't make $100. We didn't start in refugee camps really to monetize. Is really to support the refugees. So we balance with other kiosks. But what we do, so I'll give you an example. Let's say we have 50 kiosks. Our goal is $100 per kiosk. So we look at our revenue. We should generate $5,000 per month per kiosk. If we generate less than that, then we know there's a problem. And we have a colleague that deals with that.
The impact.
So it was built around impact. So we are technology for social good. So again, we focus on women, people with disability. Our job is to create jobs and to bring efficiency in distribution for low income. So we have a technology impact, we're bringing access to connectivity for low income people. We have a social impact, creating jobs for women and people with disability. We have an environmental impact, we're using solar technology to power our kiosk. And we do recycling on the kiosk and the life cycle and stuff. So we have several impacts.
and teacher English.
As far as what?
As far
So
as
we have 50 women, we have 45 women, 5 people with disability. I mean, I can give you the stats, you can stop by the office, that's not a problem.
few things that would make me.
No, I mean, again, and then good question. Sensor will also, so one of the things we adding on the sensor is CO2 levels. We'll be able to monitor the CO2 level on each kiosk. We'll be able to tell you CO2 level of this kiosk in town compared to the kiosk in the city. So we're doing a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, we build this company based on impact on the ground. But of course, impact alone is not enough. So, yes.
What does it concern you? Security of the kiosk, maybe other issues occur when someone tries to put the hardware somewhere about security.
Sure. So security is actually a question we get a lot from investors. I mean, the simple answer is we can shut down the kiosk with GPS. We'll have GPS system on the next generation. So if it's stolen, we can track where it is. For somebody to disable that, they'll have to be a little bit technical. But security is an issue for most companies, especially those that are doing a lot of money and all those things. But we put in place, for example, the fingerprinting. We want to make sure that the agent we recruit, because it's not security on getting stolen for the kiosk, security on the person that we recruit, making sure that person is the one serving the customer. What we've seen in the past is agent was subcontracting to other people. All right? I mean, that's just how humans are, right? And that's why we decided to focus on women, because we see most of the violations done by men, you know, so, true stories. So, so we put in fingerprinting now. So that agent cannot operate the kiosk if it's not the one we register. The app we have cannot work if it's 100, so each agent has a mobile application. Every services we provide is digital. So if the app is 100 meters away from the kiosk, both systems shut down. So now with technology, you can add all kinds of stuff, right, to minimize security. But you can never eliminate the threat but good question. Yes?
I used to supply what is in solar.
Supply? Yes.
And the big issue, as he said, is about the security.
Yeah.
So people there, they steal them.
Yeah.
In most places that have supplied water, they are no longer having them. They have to pass them.
Yeah.
So how, maybe I have to visit you.
Yeah, you have to look at it. So it's one product. It's not separate. It's not a solar panel here, battery outside. The battery is built inside the kiosk. So of course, if you want to steal the component, you have to break through and all that. It is possible. Again, when you do business, there's no perfect version, right? You always have to factor in the risk in your business model. You know, when somebody do lending, they factor the people that are not going to pay back. It's part of business. You just gotta manage it properly. If it passes a certain threshold of 5–10%, then it may become a problem. But if it's less than 1%, then you factor in your cost of doing business. That's what we call cost of doing business. So I don't know this model, but for us, right now, in Rwanda, we've never had any kiosk, right? Because the agent is registered with us. You know, he has to bring a letter of recommendation from the district and the sector he lives in. So we have a detailed record of that agent. In Uganda, we have very low, we have only 3 kiosks right now, so we haven't had any problem. But that problem will probably happen as you scale. But that's part of doing business. We just have to manage it properly. You know, that's the best answer I can give you. Yes?
What could be the challenges that you met when expanding to another country borders? You said about the laws might be different from here, even the preferences of the customers in another country might be different from the customer that you've been having.
Sure.
So that could even require you to change the model. So what could be the...
So that's not no more jobs, right? As I said, we license the technology. So we work with a local partner. That person, so what we do is we give them the know-how of how the business should be done. And they adapt it to their work. But the distribution, the building, the recruitment of the agent and all, that's their job. It's no longer ours. We focusing now on the back-end software system for them, to adapt the software system to their particular market. because each market has different services. Now, you no longer have to deal, as you mentioned, with how to recruit, adapt the market, find out what works, what doesn't work. The laws and regulation fall under that partner, not ARED. And just to be even more transparent, we do the deal on a group level, right? So we don't even register an entity unless we have to do a joint venture. But even a joint venture, you can do it this different ways. I'm not a legal guy, so I'm not even going to try to get into that detail. But the goal is to minimize having footprints on that country. That's the goal. To minimize as possible footprints in outside countries. Because I don't want to deal with that headache. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Yes. Oh. Okay. Yes.
I'm curious about what was the legal issues, most common legal issues.
Legal, right?
Yes.
Let me think. Legal issues, huh? Licensing was a problem. Yeah. We took a year to get those licenses, man. You know, when you deal with government, there's a lot of bureaucracy. They even say by law they're supposed to do it 3 months. It took a year, and then within the year, people change. You know, they have a new guy coming, so you have to start everything from scratch. That was the biggest challenge. Another legal issue is dealing with the district for those kiosks. Uganda, we don't have that problem. But the good thing here, everything is structured. The problem is the bureaucracy. What other legal issues we have? Oh, that was it, man. Yeah, it's dealing with those licensing, man. That was the biggest challenge, man. And laws change all the time. Oh my God. All the time. So you gotta keep up with this stuff, man. Oh yeah, yes. Oh, that was it.
Okay, thank you very much. May I have I'll take you a little bit back when you were starting this company, your company.
Yes.
Of course, you started when you were alone with your idea, and then you had to come up with some people that help you in one way or the other. What are those conditions you could put around in order someone to join your team? Because by then you have no money that you can pay. So what are those things that you put? Say that if you have this, you can join your team.
Oh, so what do I look like? A few things. Problem solving skills. I always tell when I do interviews, I was like, I got 2 kids out. I don't need no more kids at the office. If I'm hiring you as an adult, I'm going to treat you as an adult. If I got to micromanage you all the time, you're not the right person. I hate micromanaging. Of course, I have to train you. So problem solving skills, that's number 1. Somebody that can manage a problem and solve it on his or her own without me having to be behind. The second thing I look for is how dedicated they are. But that you can find out later on. You can't really find out on the resume. So on the interview, I always ask one question. What are the biggest problems you encounter? How did you solve it? That's all I always ask. And I always try to evaluate your question on that. But the last thing I would add for a team to join us, you have to be willing to wear many hats. I've seen a lot of people like to just be boxed into one thing. That's not what you're going to get there, right? I'm going to make sure that you're aware of the whole value chain of the company. Even though your job is not to do everything, but you have to be able to pitch in everything. Again, I'm not a big fan of big teams. I believe now with technology, with the intelligence we have, we can do much more with a less team if they have the same mindset as you. So that's pretty much what I have.
So my last question is, when you were starting, and as you said, your mom was like coming back asking money or something. So how did you manage that situation that the company has not yet generated the revenue, and then you need to survive at the end of the day?
Well, I can.
The fact that because the people who are around here, at least they have the space here to sit here, they have some lunch and sort of thing. But for you by then, there was no way how you can get support from outside. How did you manage?
No, well, my mom's story was before I had my first successful business. So I came with savings, right?
Okay.
So my case was a little bit different. If I didn't have some money, it would have been I hate the word impossible. It would have been very difficult to accomplish, to start this business because Holland is expensive. So I have to say, but before, what you need to do is get a part-time job, find a job, get a job, do your business. You know, there's 24 hours in a day, right? You sleep 5 hours, 6 hours, you still got 19 hours. You work 6, 7 hours, stop partying, stop drinking, you know, stop hanging out, wasting time. I'm serious. You know, if you do those things, you'll see that there is time. You know, people don't leverage their time properly, right? They want to hang out, you know, they want to Facebook, selfies. All this is time wasted. If you become so good at managing your time, I guarantee there's nothing you can accomplish. At one point, I had 2 jobs and a business. I was working like 20 hours, the other day, 15 hours a day, managing my business. Because that's what I had to do to pay my bills and do my business. You know, you have to do what you have to do. It's just that simple. When you press into a corner, there's only 2 options you have. You either quit or solve that problem. How do you figure out how to solve that problem? So, but one of the things that I definitely have seen with young entrepreneurs, they waste a lot of time doing dumb stuff. That, if you eliminate those things, I guarantee you'll find yourself with a lot of time in your hand. A lot of time in your hand. You know, when I first moved here, I stopped drinking. Because I knew I was getting into a new journey. So I knew stuff had to go. You know, because that's an expense I didn't want to have. Right? So you can save money also. You know, that's a good way. There's a consultancy called Growth Movement. I don't know if you guys know it. Growth Movement is a consultancy that helps you match with a consultant that you can't afford, they pay for it, right? In any sector, right? So also utilize there's a lot of programs out there for entrepreneurship. This is the best time to be an entrepreneur. When I started entrepreneurship, you were an entrepreneur because you were a loser in school. That's where you were an entrepreneur. You know, because you were failing in school, that's where you become an entrepreneur. My days, that's what an entrepreneur is. Now entrepreneurship is cool. You know, I see posts sometimes, I'm an entrepreneur. Like it's the coolest thing. But the bottom line is there's a lot of tools now for you guys to utilize. But instead of going on Google for dumb stuff, go on Google and search for those organizations. You know, there's a lot of organizations out there that are willing and they're looking for innovative products. They're looking for innovative and great entrepreneurship. And that will minimize your cost dramatically.
Okay, so...
There's a question there?
Oh, yes.
So I wanted you to share with the incubators here or entrepreneurs the legal mistakes you made, because there are these mistakes that startups make. You forget to make agreements with people you engage in with your business, or you forget to declare your tax and you have to pay like I don't know how many fines. So did you have any? Yes.
No, not in this business. Like I said, I've been in business for a long time, so I've learned. But my previous business in the States, I had a tax lien for $350,000 because I was not doing my books properly. So taxes and taxes is one of the top reasons why companies get in trouble. Not paying on time, and that's also they say you don't have to pay taxes. I'm sure there's that's not true. You don't have to pay corporate tax. You're not making any money, but you still have to pay withholding tax if you have consultants. You have to pay employee tax now, Social Security, and all those things. And I see startups, and I think RDB needs to have a training for that for people that register. Because I see too many guys. Oh well, I was told I don't have to pay taxes. They're generalizing this stuff. But you're right. Taxes will kill your business, man. Woo! Taxes no joke. Rwanda don't play with taxes. That is no joke, man. 50% when you're late even one day. Now that happened to me. You pay late, the system is down at the bank. You're trying to rush, it's too late, everything is closed. So do your tax on time, get an accountant. That's the first thing I did when I opened my business. Get an account. Before you even do anything, get an account. Don't worry. It's money well spent.
You know, when we always here, we bring some people here, we forget that we have the people that we promoted soon with the name. What's the name again? Yeah,
The accountants.
Yeah, so we have people who are helping these startup companies in accounting and legal stuff, as Antonio was talking about. So as by then, when you're like starting, you had people people come in and help you in one way or the other. But the people, as the background you have on this project, as I said, you have the junior lawyers and junior accountant. What do you think that they need to focus on to help these startup companies to grow, apart from some tasks you mentioned as well? I also requested Mr. Brian to add more of that because of the experience with that. But what do you think they are adding to this startup company? What do you think in their personal based level, these junior accounting and junior lawyers, what do you think that they are gaining alongside this startup company through your experience in this startup world?
What do they gain?
Yes, sir.
The junior?
Yes.
I think both ways.
Both ways.
What the juniors gain, what the businesses gain. Right?
For the junior, is to see what the gap is. There's a huge gap in Rwanda for SMEs, accountant and SMEs really, that I've seen. So I think there's a huge pool of SME that is growing, that is now being, that's a very interesting, that's a great business model. I mean, great business opportunity. Where, again, I think you guys can see the opportunity, at least that's my opinion, to see what the needs are. And so you can maybe, if you want to start a business, target those guys, because they're not getting targeted. Because lawyers and accountants, most of them, want to focus on big business. And small businesses are different, you know, they're less headache, they're less paperwork, but now you got to deal with volume. So I think for the junior account, it will show that there's a need there for you guys. Even though the startup don't necessarily see it in the beginning, because they don't know better. I think for them is to educate them of the reality of what is needed. Again, when I started my first business, I wasn't thinking about taxes. I was so focused on making money. Tax was like, I'll pay when the money comes, right? That was the initial idea. But that's a mistake a lot of startups do, because they don't know better. And nobody's telling them those things are important. The fines are real. I mean, I don't know if there's statistics, but I know there's a huge number of companies that have to close because they didn't pay their tax on time and all those things. Now they have huge fines and all that. So I think for them is to educate, to show what's important from the beginning. You know, for startup, you have to have this journey with an accountant and a lawyer that will understand your business, that will do your paperwork, your documentation right, you know, so you don't have to worry about those things. And when you get audited by Rwandan Revenue, you have a tax person that can talk for you, talk their language and all, because now you've done your due diligence. And it's very important for what? When you get to investor stage. Because an investor will ask you 3, 4, 5 years. If you tell them, I don't have all my receipts, and they're going to say, this guy's not serious. So it's very good also for investment. And it's very good for you guys also, for startup to see the progress and all those things.
Yes, I'll just quickly bring this whole conversation into context. And basically what he was telling you, and a good question from Origen, on scale, how do you scale? And the response was franchising and licensing. You understand? So most of the lawyers here, I was expecting that you're going to ask what's a franchise agreement, what's a license agreement. That's what I actually expected. And that's a big issue, because if you are in Rwanda and you're working with cooperatives, for example, it's because you cannot try to serve all these people, millions and millions of Rwandese, through an application. How do you extend that service? How do you get 10 kiosks in every district? How do you license or lease? He talked about leasing. Because these people cannot afford the kiosks, he's chosen a lease model. Definitely there are lots of legal issues on leasing. There's a whole law on leasing in Rwanda, specifically on leasing. How do you lease? Who becomes the owner of this? Who pays the tax on the kiosk? When it gets stolen, when it gets vandalized, when you steal the panel, who pays? Those are all legal issues. You understand? Because in the lease model, he gives it to you, you pay over a period of time, and it becomes yours. So during that time, does he own it or you own it? You need to have an agreement to protect his interests as a lessor and his interest as a lessee. You understand? So as a lawyer, I thought you were going to ask those kind of questions. So you're talking about scale, but scale comes with a lot of legal challenges. If he goes to Kenya, is he licensing the hardware or is he licensing the software? You understand? And you can do both. You can license both. Because when you go to Uganda or Kenya, wherever it is, you get a partner, they pay you what we call royalty fees. You understand? There's a whole law on royalties. And for software developers, as much as you're making money on the business, you also want to make money on royalties. You get me? When you're going to sell your business tomorrow, the valuation of royalties is also different. And there's a whole legal domain around just royalties. You get me? So his journey on how he's scaling, his journey on how he's trying to reach out to women and people with disabilities. You understand? The choice of those people for impact. That's the question on impact. How do you legalize impact? Because you need numbers. You need to say there are 40 women and there may be 5 people with disabilities. How do you legalize that? Do you work through an MOU environment with the Association of People with Disabilities? Because you need somebody in many ways to certify. He's not an expert on people with disabilities. If I come with one leg here, am I disabled? Maybe I'm not. You understand? So all those things, his journey, and the reason I like the fact that we make this practical is you need to see yourselves in his lens. When he started, today he told me he has a partner who's Green Tech Capital. You guys are discussing shareholders here. We all having a shareholder conversation, right? Green Tech is a shareholder. How do they give you shares? That's a question someone should have asked here. What kind of shares do they have in that business? What kind of documents do they use to have that kind of shareholders? Will that shareholder exit? When are they going to exit? You understand? That's some questions you have to ask. Many of you, hard tech, Twaza, logistics, is having conversations about getting in new shareholders. You need to reach out to this guy and say, how do I get a new shareholder? How do I protect my interests as a founder? How do I ensure my passion? You can see Henry has a lot of passion. This gentleman here has a lot of passion, right? This guy has a lot of passion. How does he maintain that passion when he has brought in a new partner who doesn't have the same level of passion? You need to protect that in a legal document. I'm going to keep 70% of the business. I'm going to make the majority decisions. I'm going to only come to you for consent. You understand? And this has to be in the shareholder agreement. So you guys need to ask Henry, how is this shareholder agreement? Of course, he won't tell you everything, but he will tell you a few things of how he protects his interest in this company legally. Because all the things he's talked about here, like I keep telling you, have a legal twist to it. You get me? So that's how you protect your CEOs of this business. And I think I liked what he said about there's a whole new segment of SME law. Because the challenges of an SME are different from the challenge of MTN. MTN's issues are how do I make the next customer? Your challenge is how do I get an investor? How do I get a shareholder? How do I get an employee, my first employee? How do I get my license, documents, softwares protected? How do I get a Chinese guy to manufacture my products? So for me, I think Henry has been very, very kind to share his journey. This is personal sometimes, but look at it in such a way that it grows your business as a CEO. But even you as a lawyer, even you as an accountant, how do you then advise your clients better from today? Because you cannot scale, you cannot satisfy the local market, you cannot get good partners, you cannot get good employees if you do not do everything legally. You get me? So maybe we can take another 2 minutes or so, and I'll allow anybody here who has another question so that we can close this conversation. Yeah, we can take 2 more questions, I think, with that. Anybody?
The guidance on that question should be like, based on what you have been experiencing
Exactly.
from the day when you started this startup. Okay, this is the guy who has experience. Eh? So what you're facing now is he has already faced it several times. Started business, failed, so that question should be like.
Just to answer, I think Brian raised some good points.
Yeah, correct. I want first to see the kiosk. Then if possible, come to office.
Yeah, we need to check you also. June, right next to Ministry of Health. Main road across. There's a car wash sign next to Ministry of Health, and right across that building. You see a sign. But is it? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry today I was talkative.
Okay.
But my question is, you say throughout your recommendations, you mentioned that most of the cases we need to look for grants in the competitions around. And if you look it very closely, you find that everyone who offers grant and or even the person who runs a competition has their own model and they have their own way of doing things, of which most of cases, if you don't care so much, you might lose the focus of what you are building. How did you deal with that?
Who has a different focus?
So Henry, every donor, every government has interest. I might have interest in health tech. I might have interest in people with disabilities. You have a business model. You want to, sell services on a kiosk. But because you want to attract my money, are you always going to adapt to every donor or every agency's interest?
Why not? For the money. So, but of course you have to do it. So for example, we apply for a whole range. We've had a grant in the renewable energy sector. So when we apply for that grant, we emphasize our renewable energy aspect of our kiosks, right? We've had grant on ICT, the Wi-Fi connectivity. So we focus on the connectivity on the application. We've had grant for financial inclusion because we do mobile money and we have a e-wallet on our mobile app. So you focus. So you have to adapt. You can't just have a generic application for all of them because remember that most grants get thousands of applicants, right? So they're going to go with the best applicants. So you have to adapt. You have to cater to what they're looking for. That's just common sense. So you have to adapt, absolutely.
And my question was, how did you keep the growth part of it? Because that one can make you lose focus.
No, focus is self-control. If you lose focus, then you need to readjust yourself, right? So losing focus, it's a personal journey on its own, right? There is days you're going to be down. There is days you don't want to get up, you're so stressed out, there's problem happening. It will happen. That's okay. It's human nature. As long as the next day you get back up and you keep fighting, right? Now, if you let this non-focus drag you for days and weeks, then that's a problem. So you have to have self-control, right? You have to have, me personally, when I'm down, what do? I go on YouTube and listen to motivational videos. It pump me up, I get back to work. You have to find what triggers you. Everybody's different. Some people like to sleep, just hoping it's going to get off, Some people like to talk to somebody they look up to, just to keep them in a boost. Find what keep that momentum going, but you're gonna need that. Even me, I have down days, I don't want to deal with nobody. It's normal, it's okay. Just don't make it a habit of having it every day. That's a different story.
So have you had to, like, in dealing with the business, have you had to deal with probably a partner that was bringing an non-monetary consideration to the table? For example, if you're dealing with maybe a strategic partnership, so how do you value that?
That's a good question. First partner, Green Tech Capital. I value, partnership is like marriage. You got a young baby, but it's a relationship, right? There's going to be up, there's going to be down. It's part of it. As long as, so one of the things, so you have to be clear from the beginning to your partner what you need them for, because a partnership, even though it's a marriage, for business, somebody has to be the final decision has to fall with you. So Green Tech Capital came to us, they said, what challenges did you need? And we list all the challenges. But we're clear on a few things. Number one, we want to make sure that they're not going to try to change our business model. Because we've had partners before that wanted us to focus less on the social impact and more on the increasing revenue. So that was something I was clear from the beginning. So So you have to be very concise and clear, and that has to reflect. Another thing is on the contract side, we structure the agreement into milestones, not just an agreement on milestone. So they have up to 20% equity on the A-rank. Right now they have 10, and they can go up to 220 based on 4 milestones we put together on the agreement. That minimizes your risk of, if they're not performing well, you can get out with just 10% instead of having given 20% upfront. So everything you do when it comes to agreement, break it down into milestones. It'll minimize your risk. Trust me. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering if at the prototype stage, if you ever went to look for a partner, and then that partner, they were most influential for you to get on the market.
The last one?
The partner. They were the ones who are more influential to get you to the market. You talk to them, but then when you get the partner, you tell them your solution, everything, and they are like, wow, if you're still developing, you can develop it, you can come bring that solution, we buy it, we give you money, then we own the solution.
So on the licensing, it depends how you structure. Agreement is pretty much as how you structure the agreement, right? So they can't own the software because they have to use our software system to process. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question, but you said the
like a partner, especially.
So are you talking about partner as investor or partner that we're going to use to expand in other countries? What kind of partner are you referring to?
Especially the company, like a partner who is going to help you expand the market,
okay, so
but not from the other countries, inside the country. If you're developing a prototype, then you take it to a government institution that they are going to help you.
Yeah.
And then that institution, they are like, okay, this solution, if you finish developing it, we are able to help you, but then we need to own that solution.
You tell them that's not possible. But you have to give them value.
But then
you can't say no, but you have to give them value. Yeah. You have to show them that it's better to license your system than to own it. Because if they own it, now they have to recruit or hire their own technical team to maintain the system. Right? That's the cost they're going to have to add. Right? The second thing is, that's not their core business. Their core business is whatever their core business is. Your core business is your technical side. Show them that by licensing, it will lower your cost. And now they can do changes at no cost to them. I'm just giving you an example. They can constantly listen, I'm your partner. If you need change, I'll do at no extra cost. If you have to do it on your own, it'll cost you X amount. If you do it with me, that's how much you save. You always have to show value to your partner or your customer. And anybody rational will say, hey, that makes sense. Of course, you will always come across people who say, no, I want to own my own stuff. You can't debate with that. You just gotta let it be. But you can add on your business plan where you just sell the system and you offer a maintenance program, for example, because you build the system. So you know the system better than anybody. But my business model is as big as your own imagination, right? Yeah. There's no limitation to the business model. Now you just have to create it and find a way to put it, and find a lawyer to put it on paper. That's the key. But yeah, go ahead.
The first one.
Thank you. I have a question about partnerships. A lot of times when you go to the market trying to convince partners, sometimes they can be skeptical of the solution, and sometimes they even need money to start working with you, and they sometimes tell you that you need to bring this money first, you need to give this first. So, and my question is about what's the best approach to tackle this kind of problem, and how should you approach this kind of programs?
Listen, there's two keys. One of the keys to success that I've learned, well, there's several, but there's two main keys that I always tell people. Strategy, execution. Strategy, execution. You have to test different models and see which one stick and work. So for me to tell you, I'll have to know more about your business. It won't make sense for me to give you advice because I'm not sure I understand. But I'll give you an example for me. It took me 1.5 years to to find the right business model for my business. A year and a half. I spent a year and a half testing all kinds of different models. Selling the kiosk, renting the kiosk, all kinds of different models. You know, so you have to test different models and see which one works the best. The last thing I want to say, you're not going to be able to convince everybody. That's not your job. It's impossible. You're going to waste so much energy trying to convince everybody. You just need to convince, you know, when you find the right business model, it's the business model that most people are interested in, right? And then from there you build your market share, and then you grow. Because again, people are emotional. You know, most human beings make emotional decisions in general. You know, they don't make practical decisions, they make emotional decisions. As you grow, and as other people see, oh, my friend or all is using your system, then they start catching up. But in the beginning, is you have to find the right model. To find the right model, you have to test different models. Then you have to call a customer. Then from your core customer, you build your way up. That's just, I'm summarizing, that's just the way it's supposed to be. I hope I answered.
I mean, with your lease contract, because you're working with local people, and the amount they are paying you is kind of like not a lot of money. I mean, how did you secure your payment? Because you cannot always go to court whenever everyone is like trying to cheat you. So, I mean, how do you make sure you get paid every month? Because people have different intentions.
That's a very good question. So that's why technology is so amazing. So remember, they have an e-wallet account. So we earn commissions from our e-wallet account, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't get paid the commission until the end of the month. So we collect our money up front from the system. Mm-hmm. Not cash, no nothing. It's all
that's good for you. That's good for
without technology.
It was logistics.
Yeah. Find a way to collect from your system, or you're going to be chasing money for the rest of your life. I'm serious. Renting. When I started, I was renting. Oh my God! I don't think we have time to talk. And we have kiosks by the border of Tanzania. I used to go there 4 times a week, just because, oh, come back tomorrow, I'll give you money. Oh. So find a way to control for business. That's the best way you do it.
Okay. Find ways to control using the system.
Yes,
absolutely.
First, I will thank you very much for this conversation. It's very important. When I look at the challenges that we're facing, the last 2 months that we have been in this room, in this project. My last question to me will be on mindset towards technology. I know, due to the experience that I have in this tech world in our country, we have that challenge of mindset, especially to the client that they expect to use exactly either a platform or that hardware business you're starting. I don't know what exactly that you face, but what do you think that someone can, which good approach, okay, that a startup can use in order to handle that mindset challenges or problem within our customer that we need to use them?
I mean, mindset is one of the toughest things that you can change. But the thing is, I always tell people is, when you have a product, don't try to monetize it immediately. Offer your platform for free. Let them make that decision. Let them get that experience. You know, let them expose to this and show them. Again, if you bring value, our kiosk in the beginning was, people didn't know, they thought it was a fridge. You know, it was very interesting. We used to gather and ask questions. But now people know about this kiosk, right? Because after 5 years, not everybody, but a lot of people have seen it, they're accustomed to it all. So time is your best approach by educating. You have to educate your customers. You have to show them value to your customers. But most of all, you have to give that solution for free for a period of time so they can experience that value. Too many times people want to monetize immediately. It's not possible, especially like you say, you're dealing with people that are not accustomed to that. You know, and if you show more value than what the cost is, then most of the time they will adopt it. Not all of them. Again, as I said, you can't convince everybody. You're going to be wasting so much energy trying to convince. Say no, just take the no and move on. Find the yes and build your base from there. Find that small yes, and then you build your base from there. That's just the way it is. But time, that's why I always say, when you build a business, you have to have a 10, 20-year vision. You have to give yourself 10, 20 years. You gotta close your eyes for 10, 20 years. I'm dead serious. Because if you wake up every 3 months, I didn't make no money, you're gonna be stressed out. You're gonna be so overstressed out. But if you prepare your mind that I have 10, 20 years to get where I need to be, then your mind looks more on a long-term vision than a short-term vision. Then it prepares you much better to assess the problem much, much better. You know, if I started this business, I knew it was going to take me 20 years to get where I need to be. So the challenges I have now does not really affect me because I know, you know, but that doesn't mean you have to sit and wait 20 years and hope that things. You have to hustle. You have to, you know, you have to hustle every day. But you have to have a long term. This dream, I don't know, I'm not saying you guys have that issue, this dream of I'm going to start a business today, I'm going to exit next year, I'll be a billionaire by 2020, it's ridiculous, guys. But you'd be surprised how many people I talk to. They say, man, I'm going to exit and make, well, not billions, but millions of dollars and all. No. First, take care of the customer. Don't think about money. Make sure it's sustainable, but take care of your customer. Don't count your money, take care of your customer. Then after a while, I guarantee the money will come. I guarantee you that. If you take care of your customer, the money will come. So,
yes. So I think, you know, just to thank Henry for taking off his time. I think it's as educated to me as it is to probably everybody in the room. But I think to bring it full circle, we've talked about a lot of legal arrangements. The one that I like the most is your discussion with the gentleman from Hashtag on outsourcing. You cannot do anything yourself, try to outsource that. On scaling, on how to license and ensure that you know, you go wherever you want to go with, you know, partners of choice. Obviously, the questions on mindset are very, very helpful. Thinking long term. Dreaming and ensuring that you have professionals around you to write down your dream, you know. So if you're a CEO here and you don't tell your lawyer everything, then they can't advise you very well. I've had people say, you know, they're not giving me all the documents, not giving me all the instructions. So if you don't give a doctor, if you tell a doctor it's this leg that's hurting, then he will treat that leg, you know. You've got to give your professionals all the information. And that way they serve you, you know, better. She's talked about, you know, securing your interests, not just money. Securing your solar panels, securing the fridge she's talking about, that people thought was a fridge. How do you secure these things? You secure those things through, you know, legal documentation. I think we spent a lot of time on legal documentation. It's just because, as a lawyer, that's all you have to do to protect your client. Because he's going to tell you, these are my fears. How do you put those fears in a document, some form of document? Okay. I'm glad you talked about partnerships and things like that as a way, you know, look at it like a marriage. I think my first meeting with you here, I still told you it was like a marriage, and we didn't talk about it with him. But at least he raised that as well. Just to tell you that you think long term, it's going to be a good day, a bad day, but protect yourself. You understand? And interests are going to come at play, but how do you document your interests? So this is basically what it was about. I thought it was better to hear, you know, real time challenges out there, and I think Henry has done a great job. Please reach out to him, take his advice on trying to get on LinkedIn. Many of you are not. I check on you guys a lot. I'm telling you, I check on him every single day. I see him every single day. I send him a text message. I read that. I listened to that video. So we are validating that he's actually sharing this information that some people out there are actually watching. But I've checked on a lot of you, and you're not there, or at least you're not active. How are you going to be, you know, a business person or a good professional if you're not using professional networks? He talked about networking a lot. I network a lot. I meet people every single day. I think every single day I probably meet 10 people. 10 people. How I met Henry was probably through a network. Somebody asked Henry to meet me maybe 2-3 years ago. You understand? He wouldn't be here today if I didn't keep that network. And networks are like a business. you've got to nurture the network. If I call you once a year or once in 3 years, that's not a network. It's not useful to me, right?
That's right.
You get me? So you've got to use the networks to grow your business, whether you're a lawyer or an accountant. If you're a lawyer and you're going to RDB to have a patent or a copyright protected, it's going to be faster if you know somebody there than if you didn't know somebody. You've got to put a face to systems. You can register a company online, right, in 2 hours, that's what they say. But sometimes in that system, there will be a problem that you have got to call somebody to resolve that issue. So networks, I mean, he talked about networks. There's nothing illegal about networks, but there's everything legal about networks because your work becomes very easy when you know somebody. You get me? So, thank you for your time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Let's do it again.
Sure, no problem.